Well, what's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to a Therapeutic Edge. I've got something on the table from the folks at Sencut that I really like. Now, I've had a number of Sencut knives, and they're okay. And to understand why I think they're okay, we got to understand what Sencut is. Now, many of you know this already, I get that. But for those of you that are just joining us and maybe don't know, Sencut is part of the WE knife family. Now, it used to be that WE knives were the expensive stuff, and Civivi was the sort of budget line, D2, G10, steel frame, steel liner lock, stuff like that. Year and a half ago, they decided they needed a third step, so they created Sencut. And so now Sencut is the budget end of the WE line, whereas Civivi ranges between like maybe 75 to 120 bucks. WE goes from 150 up. Sencut fluctuates right around the 40, 50, maybe $60 range. And I like that they did that, right? The one complaint I have, of course, is that means that you'll have the same knife in Sencut, basically the same knife in Sencut, Civivi knife, and WE knife, just with varying degrees of material. But that's cool. I mean, that helps your average knife buyer get more choices. To me, it's difficult because they're not always named the same thing. So anyway, you get where I'm going with that. This is the Tynan by Sencut. It is a steel frame lock. It is running 10CR 15 COMOV steel, which is a mouthful and sounds like somebody's really bad Facebook password. But really what that is the Chinese equivalent of VG10. And I like VG10. Spyderco's been using it forever. It is a good, reliable, stain and rust resistant steel that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. So I'm not sad at all to see it on this knife. Now, they can't call it VG10 because VG10 is a brand. So 10CR 15 MOV. There you go. I don't mind steel or other material frame locks with budget blade materials. In fact, two of my favorite knives from very familiar companies in recent years are like that. Let's take a look. So this is the Highball from Kershaw. This is a steel frame lock with a D2 blade. I love this knife. I do. It is gorgeous. Surprisingly well made. And these come in at about 60 bucks, 58, 59 bucks, something like that. This is the Highball from Buck, and I love this knife. Now, this is aluminum with G10 overlays and D2, and this is about $45. So that's really the sort of price point that Sencut is fighting with, right? Handle materials aren't titanium, nothing super fancy, but interesting designs. There's more about this coming later. Well, you may see this again in another video down the road. Excuse me. The Tynan is, well, it surprised me. So I ordered these because, content. But I got this thing out of the box, and by the way, the Sencut stuff comes in a really nice zipper pouch. Comes with a really nice cleaning cloth, some informational packet, and it did come with one of those little non-rust pouches, but I did what you're supposed to do and ate that. Wait, no, I threw that away. Anyway, so let's take a look at the Tynan and see what you get. Now, these do come, by the way, in other layouts. You can get them in different colors and stuff, which is very cool. As I said, it is a 10CR15 MOV blade, or for all intents and purposes, VG10. Steel frame lock with a reversible stamped steel pocket clip, which is very nicely deep carry. As you can see, they do a good job on these clips. It's got good spring, plenty of ramp. It does not create a hot spot in my sort of meaty hands. Your experience may vary. The blade on this thing is gorgeous. I don't know what it is about this particular blade shape, but I just love it. It's got a little bit of jimping right there for your thumb. It's got a really generous forward choil that my big old fingers fit in very nicely, but you don't need it because the handle is plenty long. So it's just a well-sorted knife for when we see this is at $48. It's actually $47.99 on Amazon, but 48 bucks. I dig stuff like this. I mean, when people ask me, hey man, I need a knife and I don't want to spend $100 and I just need to do this and do that. There's a lot of stuff in this range, and even less. I mean, you can get Sativians for $26, but this has all of the same build quality as a Wii knife, just made in materials that are more budget friendly. And so the end result is a superbly well-made knife that comes in under 50 bucks. So, you know, you pays your dollar, you takes your chances, I suppose. I mean, by way of an example, here is a Tunifier, steel liners, micarta D2. This is a really well-made, nice knife, and these are about $26, $27, but you can feel the difference. You just can. This is a great knife. I would not dissuade anyone from buying one of these, stupid name aside, but the Sencut's just nicer. It just is. So anyway, let's move along. Let's take a look at what you get for your 48 bucks. You get little over 2 3/4 of cutting on 3 1/4 inches of 10CR15 COMOV. The grip area from behind the flipper is 3.5 inches from behind the flipper tab, but if you include that choil, it is 4.5 inches. So, I mean, I fit. My pinky does roll off just a little bit because it's a neutral shape. It doesn't drop. It's just noticeable. But you come forward on this thing and you are locked in like crazy. The blade is a thin slice of the 10CR15 COMOV. Sorry, saying that's silly. Right, it's kind of a drop point. It's got a lovely swedge across the top. You know, it comes back to the base of the plunge. There's no smile. It's got a nice even grind all the way to the end, and it is, because it starts thin, very, very slicey. Do we have anything that I can just slice? Here's just a piece of paper. Right. Just smooth. Whoa. You could even, right? Ooh, torque. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm not a pro at that. Some people are so good at that, it trips me out. Anyway, it's nice and slicey. They've done a really good job. The knife overall, from tip to tail, looks to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 inches long. So it is a nice sized knife. We'll do some size comparisons with some familiar stuff in just a minute. It's very lean and very thin. The closed profile on this thing, now we got to add the flipper tab, but you're talking about below 1.25 inches this way, right? And the closed length is a little over 4 1/4. So it does not chew up a lot of pocket. Now, because it is a steel frame lock and there is no milling, it's a little hefty, but not in a bad way. It's balanced. I don't know. I dig this thing. You can tell, right? I'm enthusiastic. And you guys know, I have got stupid, high-end, blah, 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 expensive knives that cost too much money. Stuff like this makes me happy because you get all of the features for 1/5 of the cost, right? I mean, $250 is a starting point for most of the knives that I end up buying. This thing is below 50. It's just really spectacular for the money. Anyway, let's do some size comparisons with knives you may be more familiar with. We're going to go ahead and line it up on this line here. Here it is against our old and dear friend, the PM2. As you can see, the PM2 is much bigger, but you don't get that much more cutting. You really don't. Here it is against the Para 3. And in the Para 3's instance, you get considerably more cutting and only a little bit more handle, right? And of course, these knives are $170, $180. This is $48. Do we have any Benchmades on the table? We usually do. Let's see. Benchmade. There we go. Here it is against a knife that I think is going to be really competitive in size. Here it is against the Bug Out. Yeah, these knives are really, really similar. Now, because of the large choil on the Tynan, you do get a little less cutting area. But beyond that, they are really similar in overall size. Difference, of course, is this is $145, $150. This, $48. Here it is against a full-size grip, for those of you that still have one of these. I moved away from using the full-size grip as a size tool because they've sort of lost I don't know, they're not as common as they used to be, but I think it's silly. This is a fantastic knife. You know, there's your size. The action is wee good. Wee good. Very smooth, very snappy. I love that positive lock sound, right? It just snaps open. Can I fail it? Let's try. Let's try that again. No. You probably could fail it if you got some grit or stuff in the bearings, but on your standard day-to-day, the detent on this thing is dialed in absolutely perfectly, and it is really snappy and really nice. On smaller knives like this, I don't mind a steel frame lock. I know it's not fancy, but because it gives you that sort of, as I said, positive feel in hand, like you know you're holding something. It is very pokey at the tip. If you needed to give something a little prod, this would do a marvelous job at that. VG10, or in this case, 10CR 15CO MOV, and a partridge and a pair. Anyway, is a really excellent blade steel for camp work because it's really rust and stain resistant. And this, as I said, is very slicey. I think they've done a really, really good job here. I enjoy this knife quite a bit. You know, you could go out and get yourself an older, you know, like a Kershaw. This one is an 8CR. These are still about $45. The difference, of course, is that this is assisted. It's also steel. It's considerably heavier. This is the Cryo 2. My experience has been, particularly in this case, that the VG10 or the 10CR 15CO, anyway, holds an edge way better than this. 8CR 13 MOV. Yeah. Would it hold an edge better than D2? Probably not. D2, when done right, is pretty damn good. But if you cut a lemon with D2 and don't clean that blade immediately, you're going to know about it for the rest of the knife's life, right? Whereas with this stuff, you don't have to worry about that. I said it starts with a very reasonable... Okay, let's try that again. I said it starts with a reasonably thin slice of the alphabet soup steel. It does, in fact, come in at 117 thousandths of an inch, which is just at 3 millimeters, which is a really nice thin blade stock. It does come down, as I said, to a very nice slicey edge. The handle also is very thin. We're talking about just under 9 millimeters, which is, you know, 0.3 of an inch. And yet it's comfortable. It is. Of course, the blade shape, excellent for draw cuts, lovely for slicing. It's just a well-sorted tool. I am a fan. As I said, I don't think it's light. Let's go ahead and weigh it out as we do at the end of these things, for those of you that care about such things. Steel frame lock, yeah, 3.7 ounces. Look, not bad for a 7.5-inch knife with steel frame, right? By way of example, the Kershaw is 3.8, so it's a little heavier, and that buck is 4. Yeah, 4 even. So, you know, it's not stand outy. It's not unusually heavy. Of course, if it was titanium, it would be lighter, but then you'd be paying $300. So what's the end here? The end result is this. I think that this is my favorite to date Sencut knife. I really do. Enough that, unlike many of the Sencuts that just go into a knife roll and, I don't know, maybe eventually get given away or something, I don't know, this is actually going to go into rotation. Like these. Knives that I really enjoy that aren't, you know, $300. You know, that aren't really expensive. I think that matters. Now, it isn't always about the price. I mean, I love my sheep's foot grip. This thing is fantastic. It's a marvelous carry, you know, but it's bulky. I love the bug out. Fantastic knife, great carry, right? But again, one of these costs, you could buy 3 of these for the price of one of these. So why not? I don't need ultralight all the time. Sometimes I just want smaller. And that's where we're going to land this. The Tynan is part of a growing family in my collection, even, of decent materials from good companies at a really nice price range. So that's my end thought. If you want to get yourself a nice knife and good materials, it's going to do everything you want it to, and you don't want to spend more than 40 or 50 bucks, grab yourself a Sencut. And if you want what's my favorite so far, grab yourself the Tynan. I think you'll enjoy it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time. Don't forget to look for that discount code down in the description. I will share that from Women Carry Knives. Have a great day, guys. Take care.